Hello. Welcome to Mom Your Own Way podcast with me. I'm Lily Coco. I'm a mom. I love moms. So this podcast got all started. Me talking to moms, talking about mom stuff. Let's get going. Today my guest is Marilu Cervantes. I love her name. I probably said it wrong again, dang it. But Marilu, and we're going to talk about her and her large family. So let's just jump right in it. Hello, Marilu. I love the name.
Thank you.
I've been walking around my house doing little rhymes in my head. Just, Marilu, I love you. I don't know. I love it. I think it's so cute.
Thank you.
Does your husband write you little love poems that say, Marilu, I love you?
He does not.
Okay, well.
But,
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited to get to know you. I want to know your motherhood story. I want to know your family. I want to know about you in general as a person. So we can start kind of pre-family. Tell me about your story. Tell me about you.
Well, first of all, I am Mexican. I was born in Mexico, the city Guanajuato. And my parents brought us here to the United States. I was 5. I attended school here. Like I was telling you, like our lives completely changed. My parents, we were legally brought here to the United States, but for them to get everything straightened out for us and everything, they left us in Mexico. With the grandparents for a couple of years, and then they brought us to the United States, and I was 5 at the time. And so we've been here in the United States ever since. So
it's a different trip. It's a whole different trip. I was born in Russia, and then my mom brought me and my brothers over when I was 11. And so it was different jumping in. I didn't know English, and so then you have to get to know. Yeah, it's such a struggle and a hurdle because not only is it tough making friends to begin with, but now you have to do it in a different language. Yeah. And I struggled in classes because I wouldn't understand certain things. You know what? It still haunts me to this day. We had a homework that my teacher said, "Hey, it's due Friday." And I thought he said due Friday, like we were going to do it Friday, but it was due Friday. And so everyone came in, turned in their homework, and I started crying because I was like, why wasn't I prepared? I was telling him in this broken English, I'm like, you said due Friday. And he's like, yeah, due Friday. And I'm like, due Friday, and because I wasn't able to be heard and I wasn't communicating correctly, I just broke out in tears, and I was so sad. And it's such a minimal thing, but it's those little things that kind of add up because you're trying to fit in, you're trying to learn, and these kind of things just kind of jump at you and make it a little more difficult. Did you have some of those struggles?
I struggled so much.
Yeah.
But they teach no English at all, just Spanish.
Yeah.
Read Spanish, speak Spanish, and then they bring us to the United States, and I started kindergarten. And I have no clue what everyone is talking about. I have no clue what the teacher's saying.
Yeah.
But thankfully, I tell Malcolm, and we talk about it all the time, the teachers did their 90%, not 90%, but 10%. And I feel like I had to do the 90% of it.
Yeah.
Of learning the new language, the new culture. And I'm so shocked because I learned to read and speak and understand English in 1 year in my kindergarten.
Yeah. So fast. Sorry, really quick. I feel like there's a humming or a buzzing. Do you have a fan on or anything? If not, we're just going to get to it. But
give me 1 moment. There is actually, give me 1 moment.
Yeah, no worries. These are my dance moves for everybody. for those who are listening, I'm doing sweet dance moves and you're missing them. Because they, okay, wow. We lost her. She'll be back. Marilu, come back. Marilu, come back. She'll be back. But I'll just talk about myself because here I am. I struggled the same way. It was really difficult. Oh, she's back. Here we go. I think I'm looking at a ceiling. I feel like I'm calling my friend and the phone is up on FaceTime.
It was that simple.
Okay, well, it sounds really good now, but I can't see you quite yet. Everybody who's sticking around, thanks for sticking around with us through these difficulties. Okay, we got the camera back. I mean, we are rocking and we are rolling.
Oh my gosh, what is going on?
God is good on this Sunday, girl. Like, we are just... You got good vents. You clear those vents in your ceilings? Those are good looking.
Thank you. Give me one moment, Lily. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Don't even apologize. You take your time. You know what I can do is sip my coffee, so I'm thankful. But everybody who's just joining in, we're talking about relocating, talking in a different language, and different obstacles that come in. And actually, I'm really excited to talk about this because my husband and I were talking about this yesterday. My daughter just started doing a whole bunch of different words, and sometimes if she can't say the word of an animal, she'll do the sound, or usually I'll put like a motion with a word, and so she does the motion. And so we were talking about communication, and if you can't speak a language, how do you communicate? So let's get back into it. Can you hear me well? Why can't I hear you now? Can you hear me? I can't hear you. We're gonna get this. I believe in us. Okay, I can see you, but I can't hear you.
All right, there we go.
Okay! You're so good. Look, you figure we're killing it. I think we're doing great. Thank you for fixing that. I'm sorry it's like it created a thing. But we're back. You sound so great. You look good.
Wonderful.
Yay. Okay. So I'm sorry I interrupted you, but you were saying, you had come from Mexico to America. You pretty much learned. I also learned the language in a year because your brain almost goes into a survival mode where you have to be like, I have to do this because I must communicate with others to get my needs across, to get familiar. Which is silly. I was talking to my husband yesterday, our daughter's just starting to learn words, and sometimes if she doesn't know the word, she knows a sound or emotion that I put into it. And so at first I was like, oh, it's so nice that we can kind of understand her. But then I started thinking in that way when I didn't know any English and I couldn't get the message across, and it was so hard. It was hard not to be able to be heard, to express yourself. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, that's how she feels. It must be so much easier for her to start understanding words, or at least give a symbol to let us know what she needs, because then she's being heard. And if we aren't hearing her correctly, because she's still doing sounds, if she's like ba ba ba, I'm like, sheep, do you want the sheep? Do you want banana? Do you want the ball? Do you want, when I do get it, you can see that excitement that she's like, I've been heard. I've been understood. Now we have a language.
Right.
Because it's difficult without it.
Yes, it is. At that time for us, at that moment for us as kids, it was hard. Mm-hmm. But now that you're talking about it, it's helpful in a way for us, because now that we have our kids, now we know, the struggles they go through, even our little toddlers learning how to talk, and we kind of understand them in a way, and we can help them more. Because
you can at least relate saying I know what it's like to not be understood, right. To be surrounded by these peers and, your teachers, your guardians, whatever, and then it's almost like you want to ask for help, but you can't even because you don't know how. So it's a really difficult place to be in. And it kind of shapes a lot of your childhood, because it's well, who stepped up to be your friend? Who was able to be patient with you? And then how do you carry those things over to your kid's childhood?
Right,
to
right.
try to be patient with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I loved, so you learned your English really fast.
I did. Thankfully, like you said, you just you feel like you're under pressure and you push, like I pushed myself.
Yeah.
Um, I'm already like I'm A type, like I'm already very like, I like things to be perfect.
In an order.
Yes, and if they're not, it's like I push myself until it's right.
Yeah.
So that's how I push myself as a little girl. My parents worked all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so pretty much I didn't have my mom because or my dad's support, because also they were struggling with the language.
Yeah.
They couldn't help me much
Mm.
with my homework or reading, the writing and all that. They couldn't help me. So
Mm.
I pretty much went home and I spent 8 hours at school, but I still come home and still would do the homework and do extra. Like
Yeah.
I would read books and I would read a book and look at the pictures until I understood it, and I would hear myself and say, okay, this is how
Yeah.
this is pronounced, and I would just like teach myself when I got home. And then in the morning I would go back to school and do it all over again. And I mean that's the way that
Yeah.
I didn't have that the mom and dad support. I did not.
You got
Throughout
to
all
just
school
figure
year,
it out on your own. Yeah. It's
even
hard.
because
It's
like
so
they
hard.
had no idea what I was going through.
Yeah.
I was being bullied. They would laugh at me because when in the beginning, like when I didn't understand much of what they were saying, like it was so hard. Like even going back there, like memories and stuff, it was harsh.
I struggle with it. Because I couldn't understand what people were saying. I would the only word I knew was like what, but it was with a Russian accent, so it'd be like what, and then when people would say things to me, that's the only thing I could say back. And so then people would make fun of that. And when I would try to say a word, people would make fun of my accent. And so you kind of, it feels like you're climbing a mountain. You're just like, I'm trying to talk to you. I'm trying to speak to you. And then what I found really difficult, and it still kind of haunts me in my adult age, but like, because I didn't grow up speaking the language, there are certain words that aren't commonly used in a conversation. So when I came to a word that wasn't familiar with it, I would ask somebody, oh, what does that mean? And I would almost get this laugh like, I'm so dumb. It's like, you don't know what that means? And I know I shouldn't take offense to it, but every time it's like, just knocks the air out of you because you're like, I'm not dumb. I just don't know this word in this language. And they like, will pass it down and break it down, and I mean it literally still happens to me as an adult if somebody brings this up, and it because it has caused me so much trauma. I mean it like sticks with you. You're like, I swear I'm not dumb, and I feel stupid because I'm like, why am I trying to prove to other people? It's so silly. You face that too?
Yes, I do go through that now as a grown woman, as a mom. I still struggle with that.
Yeah.
Am I doing this right? Is this the correct way to say this?
Oh my gosh, yeah, the pronunciation.
Yeah, it's like when person's like impression that you get when people see you, like even for an interview for a
Yeah.
job,
Yeah.
they already like look at your name and look at your last name, and they're like, okay, she's Hispanic.
Yeah.
And you walk into your interview, and they're already like, you can feel the pressure.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like growing up, and even still now, like I feel like as a Hispanic woman, like not American blonde, light skin, or like you always. I feel like I always have to do more, like go up.
Make up for it.
Then
Yeah.
for me, it hasn't always been easy.
Mm.
I always have to like. I feel like I always have to prove myself,
Yeah.
like to others, like I feel like I always have to work harder than others,
Yeah.
that are not, colored skin or brown skin or brunette or,
Yeah.
Hispanic.
It's so wild. And I think it does stem a little bit from that childhood bullying, because I also faced a lot of bullying. And so I constantly feel like I have to prove myself to people that I am good enough, that I am smart enough.
Yes.
And although I know these things kind of in my head, I still feel like I have to do certain things to prove it. Mm-hmm. And I think it's from the bullying, from the kid stuff. And I think part of it, now that I'm a mom, I try to flip it and think of how can I, protect my baby from those things. And I know they'll still happen, but like, how do I give her the confidence that I lacked to stand strong against all the wind that's coming at her and say like, no, I am perfectly made by God the way that I am. And this is just who I am. But kids are cruel at any age. I mean,
adults are cruel sometimes too.
I mean, it's hard. It's so hard.
Real nowadays, like.
Yeah, people are mean. Oops, I just spit. People are so mean, especially online.
Girl.
They are cruel. Sometimes I'll read certain things. I'll post like mom stuff, whatever. Sometimes I'll read certain things. Just so everybody, people read the comments. Like, unless there's 5,000, people read the comments. And you want to stand strong against a rude comment. And you want to be like, oh, I don't care, whatever. But you still hear it. You read it. It's in your mind. It has now affected you. Somebody just chipped at your wall. And you're like, man, I'm a good person. Like, I've never meant any harm to people. And then people just feel so strong. There's like, this is how I feel. Let me type it up. And I'm like, you don't know me. You're leaving this comment on a social media because this is where you found me.
Right.
You don't know anything about me, because if you had something to say, you would pick up the phone and call me. But since you do not have my phone number, you do not know me. So whatever judgment you are making right now is based off of these, like, I don't know, your own personal trauma. Like, you had a mom that was named Lily and now you hate me for it. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
It's so twisted.
I'm pretty sure if they saw you in person, they would not. I don't think they would dare.
You know what? People have not hated me, but like, I've gotten people who really like me immediately and people who dislike me immediately. And recently I read this thing that I like really liked. So if you picture yourself as a magnet, you sometimes attract people. Certain magnets will just attract to you and you get along with them, and that's great. And then on the other end of that magnet, you repel people. No matter how much you try to stick that magnet to you, that magnet is repelled. Mm-hmm. And if you focus your time and energy to decrease that strength of repelling, you will also lower the strength of you attracting people. So instead of worrying about that, those people who are going to repel anyways, we just got to like close the door on them and focus on the people who like us. And that's our family.
Yes. Unfortunately for me, the word family, I literally had to build my own family because unfortunately, and I'm pretty sure I'm allowed to talk about this here, but
talk about anything.
Unfortunately, my family, my siblings, mom, dad, very dysfunctional.
Okay.
Yes, I come from a very dysfunctional family, and it affected me so much to the point that I'm like, I don't want to make those same mistakes. I don't want that for my own family. So yeah, it's just I struggled so much as a teenager, as a young adult. It's been, or it was very hard to get to where I am now. Like,
I want to hear more about it. And if you're open to talk about it, there's nothing you don't need to talk about that you don't want to. And I'm as broken as they come, and I have so much trauma, and I have sexual abuse and bullying. So like, and it is in the family, and I have parent issues. I had a drunk alcoholic beat up, like, I'm so there with you. So there's literally no judgment, but I don't want to like express I just want to hear about yours, because I am a strong believer that how you are raised, that is how you're gonna either raise or make sure not to raise your family, And so many of those things affect us as a human being, and then we either try to protect our own family from it, or if it was a good upbringing, then we try to pass it on. But I'd love to hear about your, whether it's siblings or parents or anything that you felt shaped you in a way that you are now saying, you know what, this is not the way I want to go, or this is
it affects you so much, like in how you mother, how you parent, how you are in a relationship with even others, like friends, your own husband. Like it affects that. Like it's so like incredible, like how how you are raised, and any struggle that you went through, like it has an impact in your future, like how you with any kind of relationship. And
it kind of like lives subconsciously in your head. I noticed that recently with my husband. Sometimes I assume an emotion of his because that's based off of a trauma response. So if you grew up with like an abusive, in my case, I had an abusive biological father. And so that's just how I see male figures. And I try to read the room. So I try to see how someone's feeling so I can make it all better. And my husband isn't that way. But because I'm so used to doing it as a person, I pass on that feeling to him, which isn't fair. And so recently I've been working on making sure that I'm not, like you said, it's different in every relationship, and it shows up, these little things, these little triggers, these little reminders of how you were treated, or certain ways you had to adapt your personality or traits or characteristics to make sure you felt safe,
Same way here. My dad, like I told you, he was just not a lot like in the picture a lot. Like he would always work. Like he was always working. So, and then when he wasn't, and when he was home, or when he wasn't working, he was home, and it would be either he was sleeping or they would be arguing with my mother back and forth and stuff like that. On the other hand, my mom, and I feel like she wasn't like that with like my other siblings. It was just like like favoritism, like with her, like she did that a lot. And
but another sibling, you felt like another sibling was a favorite?
Like, I mean, even like my immediate family would know, like, why are you different with her? Why do you treat her different? And like, they are all your kids. Like, why? What's the difference?
So it was so noticeable. People are like, "Okay, wow, I'm sorry."
We always talk about how great her other kids were, and oh my gosh.
I'm here for you, girl.
Even in my relationship with my mom, like I always had to like do things to be accepted.
Yeah.
Like she always would say that I was not like good enough at something. She was very verbally abusive.
Sometimes that hurts more because that just sticks for life. Yeah.
It's there. It's always there.
Yeah.
And she was physically abusive, more so towards me than my other siblings. So all of that is just, it affected the way, even for me to focus and concentrate in school. Well, in so many ways.
I bet.
So everything that was going on at the house.
Yeah.
And to get up and go to school and try to, make it through the day, and just try not to think about, okay, when I get home, this is what's going to be going on.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So, yeah, like
that's
my
so
relationship
rough.
with my mom was.
Yeah. That's so much
relationship at all.
Yeah. That's so much pressure on you because not only are you now in a different place learning a language and you're already trying to fit in, and what would be ideal in this fantastic world is after all of this pressure and trying so hard and just, you get to go home to relax and feel safe and loved. I'm sure your mom loved you. I'm not saying that. It's just for you, it happened that you went home and you had to still try to impress someone, try to do more, try to figure out why aren't you good enough. And that's, for a kid, that's so much to carry.
Yes. Even when they left us in Mexico, even the family there, or like the immediate family there, I was like being sexually touched.
I'm sorry.
It's like I would hear and see things that a girl my age wasn't supposed to be seeing or hearing, but there I was. Unfortunately, I didn't ask for it, or I didn't ask to be there, but I unfortunately I was going through it.
Yeah.
And then,
was it somebody from your family?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
It was a family member. And
did you this is from personal. I had a similar thing. I was sexually abused by family members who I thought were supposed to be protecting me, and I didn't even accept it until a few years ago. And I only told my mom recently that, like, hey, by the way, this is what happened. And did you ever come to your mom about it? Did you ever tell any of your other family members about it? How did that conversation go, if you don't mind sharing? Did she believe you?
My mom thought that I was crazy.
She didn't believe you.
But my older sister, she knew about it.
Did she also go through the same thing? Okay.
So I don't know if she ever told my mom about it, but I know I did come. I think it was in an argument or something that we were having with my mom, and I just
exclaimed.
I told her, like, this is what we've been going through. Even with my oldest brother, as a young teenager, you're developing, you're physically developing and everything, and he would say comments, like sexual comments to me. He was touching me, and he's my brother.
Yeah.
And it was so uncomfortable because I was like, is this even right? Is this okay? Like, why is this happening?
It's so hard to be in that place because you trust those people to protect you and to take care of you, and then they make you feel uncomfortable and do this thing. And then, at least for me, the way I felt is I couldn't talk about it or bring it up because I didn't know if that was right or wrong, but I knew it wasn't right because I didn't want to talk about it. Mm-hmm. And then at the same time, it's like, you still have to live with this person. So I think that kind of made me flee from conflict, and I try to avoid it because I still try to avoid it now because I don't know how it's going to turn out. And when you have the person who's kind of has an authority over you, it's an older brother. For me, when I finally accepted it and I started looking within to try to heal some of this trauma, I realized that has shaped my relationships with men.
Yeah.
And how it damaged me in a certain way until I fell in love, and I love my husband, and he was the one who really helped me kind of figure out what I'm actually going through. Like, I was just so in denial about so many things. But it was tough to accept it and say, like, I've been damaged.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a healing process. It's a process. It's all those, like you said, it was happening in my own house, and I come out and I tell my mom, this is what's going on with my older brother. She does not believe me, or either she sees it and it seemed like she didn't want to see it, like she was ignoring it completely.
Yeah.
And because of everything going on in my house, I was always trying to look for an opportunity to run away. like an opportunity to not to be there.
Yeah.
Like I grew up with a lot of family members that were here in the United States. Um, at some point, I stayed in. We went to Mexico for a vacation, and I ended up staying over there for 2 years. I went to school there for 2 years as a young teenager.
Hmm.
Um, Not because I wanted to be there, but because I was running away. I
So it's
was
a better opportunity for you to be at least somewhere you're safe
yes,
from the abuser.
yes, and so I was trying to like escape those things happening in your own home where you want to be comfortable, you want to be safe, you want to like, at least that's how I wanted to feel when I was
Yeah.
at home, at least like
Yeah.
where I would be protected, that I wasn't. And and so I started dating. I got into that age where I started dating, and you know, it was what, in as a senior, junior high, I started like,
Yeah.
I wasn't like the other girls because I didn't even wear makeup or anything. Like I was wearing like not what other girls were wearing. Like I was wearing overalls, very like
Yeah.
I wasn't even I wouldn't even do my hair. Like I was just wearing it in a bun. Like I wasn't like the other girls.
Who were dating, who would like get dressed up and put on the cute skirt with the sneakers. I used to get so jealous of like people with the money and the style, and they get look so good, and they come in the morning in the school, and it's like almost a scene, and you just sit on the sidelines just watching it, and you're like, man, you're like watching a movie unfold in front of you that you're not a part of. You're just like, that is just not how my life is.
Yeah.
And it's difficult.
Girls getting ready for prom,
Mm.
and like they seemed so happy. Like they would play sports, they would cheerleader and all that stuff, and you were just not.
Yeah. You know
Not
what's you know what's so interesting that you made me just think of that I don't think I even realized. So I also started dating around junior high, and I had really like long-term boyfriends. Like first one was 3 years, then it was like 5 years. But all of my relationships prior to my husband, I would kind of like jump into really quick.
Mhm.
And then I'd spend a lot of time at their house and whatever. But I don't think I've ever realized that was also part of me trying to run away,
Mhm.
because I was trying to find another safe spot, another person that I could be with, another somewhere I could feel comfortable and safe.
Yeah.
I took it as like, oh, this is just my way of dating and how I do things. But it wasn't until you just mentioned, oh, I started dating, that was kind of my escape, that I was like, oh my gosh, I
Mhm.
see myself in that, and I had no idea.
I mean, at the moment, you have no idea that that's what you're doing. But
Yeah,
as an adult now, and you think about it, you sit and think about those years, you're like, that's exactly what I was doing.
yeah.
That's exactly what was going on there. But
Mm.
unfortunately, with my situation, I was 14 going into 15. I met an older guy.
Mm.
Um, he was young, but older than I was. He was
Yeah.
probably 18 or 19,
Mm-hmm.
and we started dating. Um,
Mm.
he was not in my school. I just
Mm.
met him like, I think it was like a party or something, like a family party or something, and that's where we met. And he was my escape.
Mm.
He would just so that I wouldn't be at home and going through, like, my parents were like, I think at that point they were going through separation already, like to that
Mm.
point where they're like things were just not gonna
Did
work.
they know? Yeah. Did they know about you dating this man? Did they have feelings about it? Did you care?
Well, unfortunately, in our culture, it doesn't seem that bad.
Yeah,
Um,
I can see that.
Yeah, like it doesn't, like it's okay. Like if you, even if you go to Mexico, like a lot of like, well, even my grandparents, they're like, my grandmother was way younger than my grandfather. He was like probably like 10, 12 years older than my grandmother. Like
Mm-hmm.
it happens a lot in our culture.
Yeah.
And I wasn't okay with it, but I used him as an excuse to escape from everything that I had went through,
Yeah.
like just like an entertainment for me.
Yeah.
Like somebody that I could feel safe with, or that I could talk about anything and he would listen to me.
Someone who you can like rely on and say, oh, I can trust them with these news. I can trust them to pick me up if I
Hmm.
needed a ride and help me out or make me feel safe and provide for me in a way.
And
Mm.
that's how I felt with him. And so he took advantage of that. He took it,
Ugh.
he noticed that. He noticed that I was broken. He noticed that I was hurt. He
Yeah.
could see the situation in my household. And he took advantage of that. And I don't blame him fully for it, because, I was in it as well, but I feel like,
I think there's something to say about accepting your own responsibility, which I honor you for. But at the same time, we do need to make sure that he's accepting responsibility as being the one who's a little more mature and should know a little better
mhm,
not to do that. Then again, granted, you're like, oh, well, if it's, somebody, I mean, a guy at the age of 18, 19 are so dumb. When you're little, they look older, but when you look at it now, you're like, oh my God, they're just so dumb. Like they're still not developed. They don't know what's going on. They might as well be 12.
mhm,
They just like kind of physically developed, but this isn't for everybody. This isn't for all guys, but especially those who didn't grow up with a really good family structure, so they didn't have a good example of a male role model. And so then they take it upon themselves, kind of like what you did to survive. You figured out your own ways. I don't know his family, but I'm sure, he had to figure things out too. And so when he was able to figure out, oh, this is her situation and this is how I can manipulate it for
mhm.
my own benefit,
Yeah.
could you expand on how he took advantage?
Well, I wasn't allowed. I was not allowed to go out with him to restaurants and places. Like he would come to my house and we would talk outside, like in the
Mm,
front porch, and that's where we would talk and we would just sit out there and hang out. But there was one night where he invited me to go over to his place, and I was like, I was scared because my mom and my dad and my siblings were in the house, and they had no idea that I was fixing to take off with him,
mm,
go to his place. They were not going to let me, and so I didn't say anything to them. I told him, okay, well, let's, and we just took off. Like I didn't let my mom, my dad know that I was heading over to
mm.
his place, and and he took advantage of me
I'm sorry.
at his place,
I'm so sorry.
unfortunately. And I stayed there. Like I didn't go back home.
Mm,
I stayed there, and it's just so badly. We like just going back and thinking about that, like
yeah.
is it's sad. And I stayed at his house, and at this point, like nowadays I still think about that, and I'm like, I don't know what he was thinking, because like I stayed at his place. I didn't go home. He didn't drive me back to my house,
Mm,
and so he got up to go to work that morning, and then he came back that afternoon, and I was still there, and he was like, what are you doing here?
mm.
And I was like, well, first of all, I don't drive.
You left me here.
This is where you left me, so where you gonna find me?
Yeah.
I'm like,
What am I doing here? What are you doing here? You should be driving me home.
and so he was like, it was my first time.
Mm,
Like like I didn't know what to do. Like I
Yeah.
was in a whole nother situation. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to call. Like I couldn't call my mom.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know what to do. And even though I didn't want to, I ended up staying there with him. And throughout that relationship, it didn't last very long, because I didn't want it. I just stayed there because culture, because people already saw me with him. They already saw me in his house. Like, what are they going to say if I go back home?
Yeah.
That I'm like, what am I? Like, I was afraid that I was going to be judged.
Yeah.
Well,
it's also, he was kind of your escape from what you had going on at home. And so the person that you were kind of relying on and had put your trust in then goes and kind of, sorry for the lack of a better word, screws you over.
mm-hmm.
Then you're kind of stuck there deciding, I'm like, well, it already happened. Here I am. And this was kind of still the better choice. And you don't have anyone else to go to. Like, the person who was supposed to take care of you did this, and you're just kind of like, here we are. Mm-hmm. So I hope you don't ever, like, blame yourself or think, what should I have done? Should I have done anything different? I mean, I think in your position, your situation, you did exactly what would have made sense.
I was so young. Like, I didn't even know what I was doing. Like, it was really bad. And because through this person in this relationship, I became a mom. I became a very young mom. I have a teenage son. He's about to be 18.
Wow.
And he came from this relationship, unfortunately. But I became a single mom. A very young mom, that I couldn't even rely on my own mom to help me. So I kind of like teached myself, like, we grew up together.
Yeah.
Me and my oldest son, like we went through so many struggles, like housing.
Where did you stay? Where did you stay with your son, being a single mom?
I stayed with my mom for a little bit, but then I went to go with. We were like jumping from house to house, like literally, just trying to find that stability. And through all that, I'm like, what am I gonna do? Like, I'm supposed to be the provider for him. I'm supposed to be protecting him. Like, what do I do now? Like, and unfortunately, like, all my family was very, very like judgy, because there is that culture, that if you're with somebody, you got to stay with that somebody, even if you don't like them, even if things went the way they went, you got to stay in that relationship. And no, you don't have to stay. You don't have to stay in an abusive relationship. Or that was my mentality. Like, why do they want me to stay with this person? Like,
kind of feels like they're against you.
Like, I went beyond that. Like, I'm like, I don't want this for my son. And I'm not, I struggled so much. Like, raising him, and like, what do I do? Like, like, I learned on my own how to be a mom. I already knew what I didn't want to be, or who I didn't want to be like. That I already knew. But unfortunately, I did a lot of mistakes.
That's how you have to find your way. You have to stumble through things and figure it out. I know it's not the right response. What I want to do is go back in time and give you a home and hold you and tell you that you should have a safe place to be. No one should feel like they don't have anywhere to go. No one should feel like they don't have a family. I'm going to cry.
I know, I'm like,
shivers.
Mhm.
But no one should feel that way. And then when you are a mom and you can't find your own mom, you can't rely on the baby daddy. You're trying to do your best to give your child a safe place
Mhm.
while you're still growing up.
Mhm. And so, you know, I ended up in California with my
Mm.
little toddler, and it was it was the harshest thing. Like, I ended up at a church, and these uh, pastor couples, they let me into their home, but it was so bad because these I thought these people were supposed to help me as well.
Yeah, I'm
And
so nervous of what's to come. I'm like,
more, yeah, they were more judgmental than, like, instead of helping me, I feel like they took advantage in so many ways of my situation. They had me in their household where I pretty much was like a maid for them.
mm,
Like, and at the point, I didn't mind because I was like, I knew it wasn't right, but I was like, at least I have, a roof over my head and I'm not in the street. But, um, I all that just made me stronger, and it made me want to push forward and be a
mm.
better mom, be a better person. Um,
How old how old are you at this point in your life once you got to California?
and I believe I was like 18 or 17.
Wow.
So yeah, he was very little still. Like, he was a toddler. He
Mm,
was like 3 years old.
mm.
So yeah, like, but thankfully, I met this lady through a friend, which her mom needed a caregiver,
Okay.
and this old lady had Parkinson's, and they needed a caregiver to be there for her, for the mom, to bathe her, to feed her, and then they paid me a lot of money. Like,
Okay.
they paid me a lot of money, and I was able to get out of that house that I was in and get my own little place, and then from there on, I just boomed. Like,
Yeah.
still struggled. I still did go through a lot. I still did go through relationships, abusive relationships
Mm.
with men. And but I was becoming older. I was getting older. You know, I wasn't where I was at the beginning. And like I said, I mean, struggles have always been there. You know, I stayed in California for 7 years, and I went to school there and everything. I finished my school there and everything. Um, and there were a couple of years there. My older sister, reached out to me and said, would you want to move? She was in Chicago, and she was like, would you like to move with me and us live together, and so that way we can be close to each other? And I was like, at the point, I was like, I don't know, because
Mm.
we hadn't talked in so many years, and they had no idea what I went through. My mom had no idea what I had went through. Me and my
You didn't keep in touch with them. You kind of just okay.
whole time, like, I was literally on my own,
Oh,
like, with strangers.
yeah.
Um, I was literally like on my own, like, with my son. Um, there were days, there were times that I had no money. Um, but I always made sure that he had everything that he needed. Like, even if I didn't eat that night, I would make sure that he ate, that he had something.
Yeah.
Um, he struggled in school as well. Uh, when he started school or even in daycare, he struggled a lot. But I believe it's because I was such a young mom, and he was very. They had diagnosed him with like he was hyperactive, like
Okay.
he would not. Uh, he had like an attention deficit as well, that
Mm-hmm.
was not focus, and they found out about that very when he was very little. But I feel like me being a young mom had a big impact on him as well, and that's why he struggled with learning disabilities and stuff like that during his early school years as well. But I've always told him that it's okay. That I always told him it's okay. You can do this, and I always talk to them now. To all of them, I tell them that don't let anything stop you.
Yeah.
Um, just to push forward. Um, I always hear them out, like how's school going, like if they're being bullied or anything like that. I always tell them don't let the opinion of others stop you
Yeah.
uh, from getting where you need to get
Mm-hmm.
your education. You know, just push forward.
Yeah. I mean, you've lived through so much and you've had to sacrifice constantly, whether it was your time, your physical body, your emotions.
Hmm.
It's so it's so crude and evil that people think it's okay to do that. Because those who are doing it, they know or should know better. To just do anything negative to another person, I just like destroys me. I just don't get it because I don't have that in me. And so I can't comprehend how somebody else would do it, especially in somebody who is, let's say a struggling mom trying to figure out for her kid. Like, how do you sleep at night if you do such a thing?
Yeah.
And it affects kids so much, just your family situation, your home situation. This is something that really bugged me about the COVID lockdown is kids were stuck at home sometimes in a situations they didn't want to be in. For some kids, school is an escape.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's the only place they get to eat food.
Hmm. Hmm.
Sometimes it's the only place that, I hated being school for 8 hours, but for some kids, it's like, oh, that's 8 hours they were away from their abuser.
Hmm.
And then, these lockdowns happen. And that was my biggest concern is the mental health and physical health and emotional health of those who are stuck in a situation at home that they didn't want to be in. Because that, like, it's affected you. I've had my own way how it's affected me in similar situation. And now we have this almost generation growing up with kids who were stuck at home for a certain period of time. We don't know what kind of surrounding.
Right. Yeah.
And they're going to be growing up raising their own kids, hopefully able to make a decision that's better than that. Although from studies people say, like, oh, if you were abused, you are likely to do the same to your kids, to kind of this cycle continues. I see it differently because I think, oh, you should be smart enough to see it better, to make a difference and break that cycle and now do something else for your kids.
Right.
But I struggle so much with this, knowing that, like, your childhood and how people talk to you and treat you affects so much of who you are as a person, and how you then go on to have relationships with other people, whether it's regular work relationship, friendships, or romantic relationships.
Yeah.
And I just feel like there needs to be a bigger conversation around it at least from this point on, to protect our kids.
Yes. Absolutely. I agree with you 100% on that. It might seem harsh. Right now, just thinking about it, it might seem harsh, everything that we went through as childhood and everything as a young adults, and the struggles that we had to go through for us to survive all these situations. And I'm thankful at the same time because I've learned a lot through
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I've learned how not to what to avoid and how not to hurt others, my children mainly, like how to raise them. I can understand many situations or many things or struggles that my teenager is going through.
Mm.
I can rely, like I can understand.
Yeah.
Like my daughters, like I have two little girls, and I'm here for them. I
Mm.
don't want them to ever feel like they can trust me or they can come up to me and talk to me about whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
I had a
like
question because you felt like your mom had favoritism towards your sister instead of you. Are you consciously trying to make sure there is no favoritisms between your two daughters? Is that something you think about? Yeah.
I think it's like every day. It's
Yeah.
I think even the older that I get, it just kind of like I'm more just looking out all the time, like how I can make them all feel included and not
Mm-hmm.
excluded. Like
Yeah.
I don't want them to feel like you're my favorite and she's not my favorite, and like I want them to know that my love is the same for all of them.
Yeah.
That maybe the discipline, because they have different personalities, but I would never verbally abuse them
Mm-hmm.
to the point that I break them down
Yeah.
as individuals. And just always like educate them, talk to them when they're not doing something right, instead of like just going off on them and just, like I said, verbally just make them feel less of a person or less
Like
of a.
belittle them.
Hmm.
Yeah. I felt a lot of that with like my mom was a single mom and so she had to get things done and she had to work and so she was a little bit more harsh and strict during certain times.
Hmm.
And others that I've talked to, it seems like that generation of parenting was a little bit like that. It seemed like almost kids were like a nuisance and they were an inconvenience and you just have to get them in order, get them to bed, get them to school, but like you live on your own life. And I my goal with my child is to make sure she feels really included, like she's a person and she's a part of it. And it seems like you're also focusing on that and this other different parenting style. Some call it gentle parenting or respectful parenting, where instead of just saying things like just because I said so, it's more like, oh well, we need to clean up because we need to make room for this next thing we're gonna do, or you couldn't do that because I can't take you there right now, and like more explanation so they feel like they can understand the situation instead of just being told something without an explanation.
Hmm. Yes. Now that you mentioned like single mom, as a single mom, you do have to work harder because you have to be the mom and the dad at the same time,
Yeah.
and the provider. You're like the main source, like the main income source. They depend on you completely. And you know, I always had like two jobs. There were times that I hardly ever saw them,
Mm.
honestly. Like I only saw them for a couple of hours at night when I got home, but I really didn't get to spend a lot of time, especially like with my oldest ones. Like I didn't, I didn't get to bond very much with them because, and I explained to them, and they know that because I
Mm-hmm.
always, tried to make that clear to them that I love them and I've always loved them. And those little moments that we had to or got to spend together, I would, make it clear to them, you don't get to see me as much because I have to work because I'm working, but just know that you know, I'm always gonna be here. I'm always gonna come home and
Yeah.
I'm always gonna be here to listen to you. I love you and I am doing this for you guys. I am doing this you know, for us to move on.
Mm.
And you guys are better a better future, a better opportunities. And, you know, I feel guilty many times. I'm not gonna lie. I feel very guilty. I feel sad at moments because I lost a lot. I lost a lot of good memories, good moments with him. Like
Yeah.
even school plays, even school meetings and stuff like that because I had to be at work. Because if I miss out at work or that means they get to shorten my hours and that means the pay I won't get paid,
Yeah.
as much. So yeah.
It's difficult when you have to have a choice of, oh, of course I'd love to go and spend time with my kid at their like football game, whatever. But if I do that, they might not eat next week. I mean, having that kind of pressure on you just sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because of course you want to be there for them and you want to do everything for them. And you're like, we need to make sure we have our needs met, which is roof over our head and food on our table. And for me to do that, so it's like, you want to show them all these different ways of how you love them. But the very most important one is like, hey, I need to make sure I feed you. Did he struggle seeing that when he was little? Did he understand that that's what had to be done?
Yes, yes and no, but he struggled in many ways. Even as at 12, at 13, when they start having more knowledge of things.
Yeah.
That they don't have knowledge when they're younger, but they kind of like comprehend a little bit more when they get older.
Yeah.
And they start seeing things and they start to question you. Like, why this? Why that? For example, my kids did not have like expensive shoes growing up, and they still don't, because I feel like I don't want them to grow up like that.
Yeah.
But they didn't have expensive clothes or name brand shoes, name brand clothes. They didn't have like PlayStation, all these other things that other little kids had.
Yeah.
And my oldest, especially, he would be like, he would get bullied at school because he wasn't wearing he wasn't in trend.
Yeah.
With the other kids. And all that, but I still do feel, those things do make me feel, it's sad. It's sad, but I've always been there to talk to him and explain to him, this is why. This is why you don't have certain things. And he, thankfully, he's a really, really good child. Like, he's wonderful. I am so proud of him. And I think I did a good job with him, and I am doing a good job with him still.
Yeah, you are.
He turned out really good.
Yeah.
I'm so very proud of him. Like, those things he never brings it up to me. Like, he never blames me for anything.
Wow.
He always, I'm so sorry, Lily. But he's always, I love you. You're such a great mom. You've always been such a great mom. And I'm like, that's my pay. Yeah. That's where I'm like, okay, so everything that I did or was doing, it paid off. It paid off. And, but he never questions anything of it. Like, he never blames me for anything or nothing, like, at all. Like, any other stroke. He's very patient. Things that he's very patient, and he can sit down and listen to you and understand you. And that's the kind of kid he is. And I think the whole situation that we went through, me being a young single mom and everything that he saw, all the struggles that we went through, like, in a way he matured. He's not like other kids his age. He's different in a good way. And
it just shows that although you couldn't necessarily put like financial things like brand name shoes, you've been able to give him this patience and this understanding and this communication where he's able to express these things and have a better comprehension and understanding. And some kids might get, let's say, the brand shoes, but they might not get that time with their mom to know that they feel loved and they are loved, where it sounds to me like you made sure that even if you had to work all day and do the things, at the end of the day, he knew how much he loved you and what you were doing to sacrifice for you.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Even like I said, I didn't have like a lot of time to spend with them because of work and because I had to be working and looking for ways to provide for them. The moments that I had with them, that 1 hour, that 2 hours, I would make them the best, that it would be memorable for them.
I love that.
Even if it was like only one Saturday that we got to spend together, we would go out and do things.
Yeah.
And we would go out and have fun and just make it, and I would just make them feel like, I love you guys, and y'all are my motivation. Y'all are the reason that I wake up every day and want to be better.
Yeah.
I have, I thank God for Lisandro, for my oldest son. Like I thank God for him because of him, I didn't give up. Like I didn't give up on life. Like there were nights or moments where, depression, I would feel depressed, or like I just wanted to quit.
Yeah.
But I would look at him and I'd be like, I can't quit. Because what's going to happen to him if I do?
He saved you.
Mm-hmm. He made me a better person.
Wow.
And yeah.
You know how we were talking about leading on to those partners or people we were seeking out to find home or safety? It sounds like God blessed you with your son to give you that home and safety in your son. So you finally had that family that you were kind of seeking, but now this is your own intimate family that saved you and helped you be reborn, because you jumped from being someone else's daughter to now being a mom and raising your own family and standing up to things. I mean, your story is just phenomenal. I mean, it sounds bad because there are sad things about the story, but like the fact that you had to overcome all of these obstacles that were constantly thrown at you, and you still come out this beautiful person. I thought you were so beautiful when you hopped on. I was like, this is a model, what the heck? So I think you're just physically beautiful, but like your beauty really shines from the inside of this big heart that you have and you had so many things that came at you that could have made you really cold, hard-hearted, but instead, through God, through your son, through your kids, now through your marriage, like you choose to open up your heart and give love.
Yes. Well, I'm not going to say that it's easy, because I still struggle. I still struggle with my own self, with even as a mom, am I doing it right? Is this the right thing to do? Like I still have those struggles. I have those mental and emotional struggles. Like they're still there, and I'm still, pushing forward. I'm still healing. Even, with my relationship with Malcolm, like we struggled in the beginning because I was so damaged. I was so hurt, and he saw that beauty that you see in me, and he took me in.
Yeah.
I did push him away many times when we were first dating, when we had first met.
Yeah.
Because I thought that I wasn't good enough for him.
Do you feel like you didn't deserve the love that he had to offer you? I
felt like there was somebody out there better for him,
Yeah.
and that wasn't me. And I pushed him away many times, and he never let go.
Wow.
He loved me. He loved my kids. He accepted me with my kids. He was very young
Yeah.
when we first started dating. Like, he was fresh out of college. Like, he had everything, you know. He has a beautiful family. They took us in. They didn't hesitate. They love us. They love my kids. They love me. They see me as a daughter. And, you know, but our first years as a couple, we struggled because of me, because I was so, like, with trust. I was so hurt and damaged that, you know, sometimes I wouldn't trust what he was doing.
Yeah.
Or I doubted so many times, like, you know, like, do you really, why are you with me? Like, what do you want from me? Like, all those things, like.
Because we make the judgments from our own experience, and your experience have been so muddled. You've only kind of seen the hurt, the taking advantage of, the manipulation. And so if that's all we know, that's what we pass on onto our partner, thinking, oh, they must be thinking the same thing. And we almost want to just like deflect it. We want to run away. We want to just close it off now because we don't want to go through it again. But he stuck around. He I mean, that's how you know it's love.
Mm-hmm. He's still there, and he says, I'm not going anywhere. I love you. And you know, he took me in with all my past and everything. He just saw me for who I am. He loved me for who I am.
Yeah.
He took me in for who I really am. And, you know, he understands me. He hears me out. You know, we're better for, like, we're there for each other. Like, we make each other, or we're just like, just the perfect, like, blend. Like, he makes me, or not makes me, but like, he believes in me and believes that I can make.
You can do anything.
Anything.
Wow.
You know.
It's unfortunate to think back that like you went through these certain situations, but then again, you also have to like look back in the same way and say, those are the stones I had to step on. Those are the pebbles I had to walk through to get to this final destination of my life that God had foreseen in this bigger plan, to be with your husband, to be finally in the space of love, this unconditional love that we always seek. We always hear your parents are supposed to love you unconditionally, yet we feel we have to do certain conditions to meet that love, where you have finally found somebody who makes you feel so loved for exactly who you are.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And makes you like, because especially with the trauma, at least for myself, I find myself kind of feeling like a, you know, like still a kid who's been abused. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I'll react in a childish way to things. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And my husband still loves me and figures out and sees like, oh, she's reacting this way because of her trauma, and she's being triggered because certain things happened, and he still loves me for you, for me, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh, girl.
Yeah.
I'm so happy of where you are now, but like your story is just bonkers.
It's I mean, and I only told you parts of it.
I want to talk so much more. I have to get to my baby because she needs milk and she needs to go take a nap. But I would love to have you on again and talk more things about where your life is now, about more details about certain things. If I'm going to message you and then we'll figure it out. But I'd love, love, love to have you on. I mean, I had such a good time just listening to you. I love your... I hate saying that I love your story, but I love your story. There's so much power in it, and there's so much love in that torture that you went through. And I'm sorry, but like it's just... But you did go through, and I want to hear about it. I want to tell other moms about it, other women. You know, there are people who are going to hear this and say like, oh, at some point you wanted to give up, but you didn't, and they won't give up either. That's so important. Okay, I'm gonna have to let you go, but I had the best time, but I'm gonna message you to do this again if you're done. Okay?
Yes, absolutely. Anytime, Lily. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
inviting me, and
Yeah.
thank you so much. You're so wonderful.
You are. Thank you again. Thank you for joining me. I'm sorry I have to cut it short. I feel like just closing the door in your face.
No, you're fine.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm gonna message you. Okay?
Yes. Thank you so much, Lily.
Of course. See you. Bye. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. I'm going to go milk out my own baby for a nap. And I will see you guys next time at Mom Your Own Way. Bye.